Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Lionel Tavares from the Sabbath at Midnight, here to bring you these new t-shirts we just got made. They have the crucifix in the front, very obvious, so you could show off exactly who you represent. The back has the old school, old English. Okay, we're keeping it gangster, and we're keeping it truthful. So if you guys want to grab one of these shirts and you're not ashamed to represent Jesus Christ, and you want to help a Christian podcast grow and reach bigger audience, please reach out and we will sell you one of these shirts for a very reasonable price. If you are international, it will be a little extra, but work with me and I'll work with you. I hope you guys have a good day and God bless.
I think they got my dad. I think my dad died because he got way too close to this crap. I think they got his zapped too. He got zapped one too many times, and that's you know, I might say that on a podcast here or there, but I think he got zapped one too many times. He had a brain aneurysm, and that was that.
What's the meaning of being zapped? Is that something that we didn't talk about that, huh?
We didn't talk about the zapping, and I apologize. So I say zapping. So basically, what would happen is how he describes it in his book, and how it is give me 30 seconds. So zapping is a phenomenon that may be related to infrasound, but the person who experiences zapping feels an electronic-like shock go through their body. So it's basically like you just get popped, or like literally like it's zapped. The shock can stun, disorient, and is extremely unpleasant. The physical effects include nausea and in some cases blood in the urine. A researcher in California that had been zapped dozens of times claimed the prolonged exposure to zapping caused her to contract cancer. I was zapped during an experience to determine the intelligence and understanding of Sasquatch. Basically, Dad called him everything under the sun, and basically turned to the woods where he knew one was, and basically started insulting it. I mean, bad insulting it, so much so to see if they could understand, and he got zapped, and I mean bad, so much so that so a friend was with me during the zapping occurrence. We were walking down an old road with a small stream and a heavy cover to our right with a rock outcropping on our left. During the verbal tirade designed to elicit a response from the Sasquatch, I felt a jolt of electricity hit me in my right arm, run up my right arm, across my chest, and out my left shoulder. I was stunned and stumbled, almost falling to the ground. My friend had a digital voice recorder on his person and was recording it when it hit the infrasound. He helped steady me and asked, did you feel that? He responded, no, but I heard a whooshing noise as you stumbled. Upon return home, I listened to the recording on the DVR, and my friend found a loud pop or electronic like crackle at the same moment I experienced the infrasound. And basically, Dad talked to me like, Dad peed blood for 2-3 days after that. I think he got popped one too many times, and it was just too much. And the Lord allowed that hedge of protection off of him, and it was his time. You know, that's what I think.
Yeah.
But again, Dad got too close.
Yeah.
You know, and I love Dad, and I think if he were here, that's exactly what he would say. It's like, I got too close. You know, here's my warning to you guys: do not get too close to these things.
Coming from the great American Southwest, from the very low desert, all the way out in the Coachella Valley, I'm your host, Lionel Tavares, and as always, extremely glad and blessed to be here by the Lord Jesus Christ himself. So you are now listening to the Sabbath at Midnight, and we got another amazing show. So today we're going to dive into the topic of Bigfoot, and not just talking about it and trying to look for it or any of that crazy nonsense. We're going to warn people not to look for these things. We're going to show people proof and evidence of what a man who dedicated more than 10 years of his life found out about Bigfoot. After this episode, you shouldn't wonder if it's real or if it's malevolent or if it's, evil, good, nice. It is demonic, period. So let's move forward into the next segment. Also, we are looking for people to talk about their testimony. It could be anything from UFOs to a spiritual encounter to a poltergeist to a testimony changing your life through Jesus Christ. It could be absolutely anything. Maybe you went through some kind of harsh, childhood and you want to share it to help other people. These kind of things help people. So if you have a story, please feel free to reach out through YouTube, through Instagram. Also on YouTube, my contact information is on there. My phone number is literally on there. So if you can't find it, go and send me a message and I'll show you. But like I always say, let's get ready for a good show. Kick your feet up, hit the head, grab yourself a coffee, and let's get into this episode. How is everybody doing this evening? I'm your host, Lionel Tavares from the Sabbath at Midnight, here to bring everybody another exciting episode. So I am here with my co-host, Dominic, and our guest right here waiting, and we will get to him in a minute. But before we get into that, just once again, I am extremely blessed and very just shocked on how big this podcast has been growing and how many people have been, following this podcast and just telling us we've been doing the right thing, based on their opinion. So that is a very big compliment. I want to throw that out there. God bless everybody that's been following us and donating and giving us, different guests, like the guests we have now. They're always recommended through these people that I respect at the most highest level when it comes to the Christian faith. So, God bless all those people. But today I really want to really send a message out there, because one thing I noticed that, this podcast is going to be on this subject. So the one thing that I noticed is that a lot of people and I would say, unfortunately in the Christian community have this obsession with cryptids. And I see a lot of podcasts that just, you wouldn't know there were Christian podcasts unless the host of the show said he was a Christian or she was a Christian, because their logo is some creature or some symbol or some demon. And then you look at their episodes and every episode is named after some creature, and mostly Bigfoot. That's the one that I want to focus on. And Dogman, they kind of go both hand in hand, but I would say that a lot of people are obsessed with Bigfoot and they see it as something innocent. And they even encourage people to go look for this demonic entity. Now, as a Christian, ask yourself this with everything that you know and the knowledge that you have. What is the difference between obsessing with the Nephilim and obsessing with the Bigfoot, looking for it, making t-shirts of it, selling merchandise of it? What is the difference between selling that and selling some idol or some shirt that has 666 on it? There is no difference. That's the point. So tonight, guys, let's get ready for a very crazy and hopefully informative episode, and let the Holy Spirit guide us. All right, so I'm going to introduce our guests. So in 3, 2, 1, all righty. So welcome to the show here, sir. Go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little bit about you.
Hey, my name is Travis Carpenter. I am the son of the late Scott Carpenter. My dad has written several books, several things, including the Sasquatch Awareness Project, the Truth Denied, and the Nephilim Among Us. The Truth Denied was a book about him or his view of a DNA or Sasquatch DNA study, and where they basically proved, if you're a Christian, that these things are Nephilim. The mitochondrial, the mother's DNA was human, and the father's DNA was unknown, and it was run through a system called GenBank. Not to get way in the weeds, but basically it was a very rock solid study. And if you're a Christian, you believe Genesis 6, and you read that, it proves that these bad boys were a Nephilim. And of course it denied by mainstream science, but it is a peer-reviewed published study, and it's pretty wild. So that's who my dad was. My dad unfortunately passed away in August of 2023, and I'm just doing my best to carry on his legacy and to get the word out and to do that in the Christian manner. My dad's biggest thing was, um, you know, I'm a Christian. That's my worldview, and I make no bones about it. The last thing he ever posted on social media before he died, someone posted a question of what was the greatest lie ever told. It's that Jesus didn't exist.
Wow.
So it's pretty wild stuff.
God bless your father.
Thanks,
Dominic, go ahead. I know you have some questions.
Yes. From the very beginnings, going way back when you were a child, do you remember anything about your dad getting into this, and how did he fall into this?
Yeah, so as a kid, my dad was always a thinker, kind of outside the box, always like an X-Files guy. Like like he had I knew he was a Army guy, excuse me, Air Force. And he like we never always talked about never trusting what the official narrative of anything was. When As I got older, my mom would tell me, she told me about these issues he had these nightmares of these two demons that came up to the glass door when he was a kid, and his dad had nightmares about it. And then when around the time I was 20, 21, dad had this encounter at a fishing spot and started kind of looking at it, trying to figure out what in the world was going on. And I kind of joined him. Hey, no big deal. We're going to look for Bigfoot. Bigfoot's no big deal. It's just a big fun thing. And later on in his research, found out they're not a fun thing. They're not something to go out and look for. So, but a lot of his research, basically everything that he put out there, him and it got filtered through through the family first, which was pretty cool. It was like, hey, I'm thinking about this. This is what's going on. What do you think about this? Pretty Anything that came out was honestly family filtered, which was I thought was really really cool. I got to spend that time with dad.
Dominic, go ahead.
Your mic on? Oh,
Yes.
so I'm just wondering about these demons.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were like a thing that's been seen by the other family members, like the past before him, and wonder maybe it was some kind of generational thing.
It definitely could be. So one of the things, I'm going to get really kind of deep into the weeds with you guys tonight, especially spiritually. When my grandfather had passed away, and my grandmother had passed away, there were some things that I'd found out that I genuinely didn't know. It turns out my grandmother's father, was a Scottish Rite Mason, I believe. So it was Masonic stuff, and when I personally found that out, I prayed that away. That's a big deal to me. I don't, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but when it comes to Masonic stuff, and when you get up in the higher levels of that, it's not good. It's not a do-gooders club. And I don't know if that marked dad, if that marked the family for a little bit or whatnot, but I do believe, and he believed that he was marked of some sort because he had this experience when he was a kid, and then he just goes out and makes a whoop, out on a fishing, he's out on a point fishing. If you know what that is, it's where the land jets out, and he's topwater fishing, and he just makes a little like random whoop sound, and everybody does that, but he gets the reaction from it. And it's kind of like, it's one of those things is like, okay, why dad? Why did dad get all this stuff? And they ended up following him home and having some really wild stuff happen at his house.
Wow.
So yeah,
Let's get into a little
yeah.
bit what happened.
So so one of the things that happened in this house is what they would start. They started taking dog food, started taking little stuff like that, but they would slap the side of his house. Weird stuff like that. Then there was one that kind of found the neighbor's daughter basically and became a peeping tom. I believe maybe that was like an adolescent one,
What?
and yeah,
Sick.
uh, and basically had the cops called. It was wild. That apparently the cop had it dead to rights in a tree. The cop basically in the police report basically said that a young black teenager with a hoodie on jumped from 12 feet out of a tree, jumped down, and then with one bounce jumped over a 6-foot fence and just sprinted off. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. So
That's
it's
so
just funny stuff.
that's so
Um,
messed up that he
yeah,
just threw that description in
yeah,
the
yeah, but it was a black teenager with a hood had a hoodie on, so it's
yeah.
like it's like okay, yeah, I like
I didn't
no,
know he was
it's
black.
yeah, yeah. Well, it would
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But
funny.
but it's funny. It's like an adolescent
That's
Bigfoot
wild.
screwing around. But what happened also is that these didn't just bring Bigfoot around. These brought like dad said in some interviews and some things. Let me actually read it to you guys for 30 seconds,
Okay.
like, and get you like that. Give me 30 seconds. And I apologize that I don't have that just right off the
No
bat.
problem. No problem.
RSS. Here we go. The supernatural infrasound zapping. Here we go. Um, basically, they they came to his house. They had this thing where um they would come in and he would have um like like he had this one thing where it was like he woke up and he found like water footprints in his house. I remember that. He would talk about that he would also wake up and feel these presences over him. If you've seen these creepy demonic movies that I'd never recommend seeing, by the way, like these creatures and these dark weird figures in the corners and all that stuff, he started having that happen to it, and it basically got to the point where it freaked him out, and he basically did some research, went to the four corners of his house and prayed him away, and that stopped immediately. And that was one of his biggest things, that he's like, these things are spiritual. These things are demonic, because bears do not react if you're rebuking them. If you try to rebuke a bear, you're going to get eaten. That's how that's going to work. But if you rebuke a spirit, an evil spirit like that, or a spiritual thing, and you rebuke it in the name of Jesus, and it reacts and it obeys, it might be spiritual. If that makes sense. So that's what happened. Um, and dad also, he caught videos of portals. He caught videos of just so many
Wow.
other things. Not so. So for those out there that think Bigfoot is just a large hairy ape, a big dumb ape, it's definitely not. Dad proved it scientifically. So many anecdotal things. So many people that actually do research, boots on the ground research, talk about this all the time, is they follow you home. And if you earnestly seek them, whatever rules are at play here, you give them permission to earnestly seek you. And you don't want that. You do not want that. What you do when you start researching these things and you start earnestly seeking them out, you create what's known as an opening, as a it's basically the same thing as a Ouija board, or anything like that we were talked about. You give these things an entry and access to you, and dad was always protected, but there was a bubble, and there was that hedge of protection. So everyone's like, well, what happened to your dad, and did they get him and all that? I don't know. But I know whatever happened, it was Jesus filtered. So it was, my father's time to go. Maybe it was my father's time to go, to push me into actually getting off my butt and doing something, and to having to stand up for Christ.
Wow.
I always said, oh yeah, I stand up for Christ. Well, am I really doing it? I have to, and maybe his passing pushed me into it, where I couldn't ignore the calling anymore. I didn't, I didn't want this, but here I am. It's the Lord is like, you're doing this, big dog. You're not gonna be able to sit down on the sideline and just hang out. It's kind of feel like a little bit like Jonah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, oh, wow, man.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
What the whole thing, when you say they're following him home, is like when these people get this experience, are they being haunted after when they get followed home? Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, what's going
yeah,
on
that's a
after
good
this?
that's a good question. So, like, a good example, haunting, poltergeist is stuff. Yeah. So whatever that means, whatever like a haunting means to you, yeah. He experienced all that, things moving. He experienced orbs. He
Wow.
experienced. Dad would always. What really was wild to me is when I would always go on these hikes with Dad. Dad would be like, I can feel one. There's one right over there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you can feel them? Whatever it was, that dude had a connection with them and they had a connection with him. Whatever that was. And that's the wild part about it. Um, and one of the places I want to talk about, the place that he had a lot of stuff. The place that he had tons of issues was called Baker's Creek. It's in Louisville, Tennessee. There's actually there's a cemetery there, and I bury him in it. It's a Civil War cemetery, but there was some just to kind of add layers to this. It's not a big hairy ape. It's not a Gigantopithecus. There's a guy by the name of Les Stroud, great survivalist. Actually, he's a Christian, but he's a survivalist. You ever heard of him before? You ever heard? He's Survivor Man. Very big in the survival world. So he goes there and he's completely Gigantopithecus. It's on his show Survivor Man Bigfoot. So he goes there and he sends Dad out and he goes camping, and he's just sitting there and he admits this about 3 years after being on the show with that, like filming the show and all that. And he actually admitted it on Thanksgiving this year in a live. You can go on his channel and look. He admits that he got what's known as mind spoken to. And they said, hey, we're right over the hill here. You want to come see us? And in his mind, he's like, no, I am not ready. And we're talking about a very scientific, oh, it's not this, like not trying to get it all into the spiritual thing. He just wants to, prove they're out there and they're a big hairy ape.
Yeah.
And he had that experience, and he went to psychologists, make sure he wasn't crazy, to have this checked out. And that tells me, if a guy's willing to go on record to say, hey, I got, I was with Scott and I went to these places that he talked about and I got a really weird paranormal thing happen to me, it's not BS. There's no reason for him to say that. The reason is for him to deny it ever happened.
Yeah. So he was getting telepathic messages saying, hey, we're just on the other side of this hill, come hang out with us, whatever.
Right.
He was just not ready to
exactly.
see these things yet.
In the Bigfoot world, they call it mind speak in the Bigfoot world. But it's all over the place in the cryptozoology. It's called they call it mind speak, but it's basically telepathic stuff. And Dad's biggest thing is do not allow them to, in your brain, do not allow them to speak to you like that. It's wild. It's really wild. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, buddy.
Oh, Dominic.
No, this this whole mind speak thing, and the other one they talk about is infrasound.
Yes. So
for me, regarding the infrasound, the way it's described in a way that it sounds like sleep paralysis, because when these things come, and this happened to me a lot, I hear this sound first, and your ears just bing. It's like an infrasound.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that this is similar, or might be the same sound that people get when they're in the vicinity of a cryptid, if it's Bigfoot or Dogman, etc. Now, when we talk about mind speak, well, that's a term they use in the Bigfoot world. This could be obviously it's spiritual, because we hear that when people encounter like an angel or whatever, or demonic thing, it speaks to you in your mind. It doesn't move its lips or mouth or whatever. So these things sound to me like they are definite. They have some kind of an angelic DNA, maybe, and because when we spoke to Jonathan Dover, the Navajo Ranger, and this is the thing I bring up all the time, when it was reported on the Navajo land that this Bigfoot, this creature came out of the ground, and like in a mist, and then it solidified into flesh and bone. So Jonathan Dover and his partner went to go, check it out, to investigate it, and they're trackers, Jonathan Dover and his partner, and they tracked this thing for miles in the sand, and they just stopped. So this thing is not, for me, it's not something that God created, because I never seen or heard of any animal, a dog, a cat, or a bear, or a deer, come out of the ground like smoke and then materialize into something flesh and bone. So for me, these are unsanctioned creations, and but that's the way I look at mind speak, and the infrasound could possibly be those things. And then basically what it comes down to is that something that's created by the dark angels.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a ton of anecdotal evidence when it comes to hey, I was following it, had that, like you said, the sand, and it's just gone. A lot of people will say they can walk through portals and they can control portals. Dad had evidence of that, and I believe that it's very, again, I believe depending on how much fallen angel DNA they have is what type of powers they have. And we base all this stuff again on biblical teachings. The angels were able to speak and cause men to faint, and they were able to walk through walls, walk through the prison walls, and all these things. So this is just powers described by of angels in the Bible, and that's where we base our truth off of. What Dad has to say in the Sasquatch Awareness Project about infrasound is low frequency sounds that can cause loss of memory, confusion, nausea, trigger the fight or flight response, like you were saying, where it's like you just freeze, unconsciousness, or even death. The Sasquatch can create infrasound. In my experience, the Sasquatch have used infrasound to encourage me to leave an area by generating fear or disorientation. The Sasquatch also use infrasound on me to implant suggestive behavior, to turn around and leave. During the same encounter, my memory was altered. I was videoing the area, zoomed in to reveal a Sasquatch looking at me through the foliage. Then, inexplicably, I stopped, mumbled to myself, then walked away. I have that on video. That was actually like on that. Like Dad literally starts like weird like cussing, and then like what, and then the video just stops and he's walking away. It's like you can tell he got absolutely popped with something. It just absolutely wild. I reviewed the footage and was shocked that I had captured a Sasquatch on video and bewildered by my behavior. Analysis of the audio recorded shows extremely intense infrasound during the encounter. So yeah, that's it, absolutely, and it happens more often than people think. So what you described with your freezing is absolutely on point.
Yeah, the thing about this is when you say that, something injured him, and he started cussing, which is probably out of character.
Yeah,
for me, that's like a temporary possession.
I sure hope he wasn't temporary possession, but it definitely could have been,
or an influence.
Yeah,
an influence.
I definitely think it was like an influence of something to where it boggled his mind for a second. But that definitely it was weird because how you can use apps to clip it. So I'm going through the clipping app, and it's like Dad's like just sitting there, just like cussing and talking about something else. I'm like, what is happening? Like, what's going on with Dad? And that was when he was zooming in literally about to pop one. And then he goes and he's like, and then he goes in the next video I've got. as he goes, and he's like, man, I'm such an idiot. Like, it was right here. It was right here. And it's basically he's about to zoom in and it just gets popped. Excuse me.
What the heck?
It is wild, man. And it's one of his very first video. It's one of his very first videos. He shows it unedited, where he's kind of cussing. I cut the cussing out. But yeah, it's wild.
Dude.
And that's one of the first ones he's ever had. And it's kind of like, man, you walked in there like first time and you're already getting just hammered with stuff. So there was something about him and them that they had some sort of mark or connection. So
Yeah, I do believe that. It's kind of like me with UFOs. I mean, I'll sit outside and eventually I'll see one or two or three. And what it is, I don't know. But your dad, he did a great work to educate us into what these things really are.
Thank you.
And may God bless him, and the mantle's on you now. You pick up the mantle and move forward with it. But I think it's good to bring awareness about these things, about the infrasound, about the mind speak, them being able to turn into come out of the ground in the mist, and then they're solid. And there's so many things to this. And I know people that by human nature, we're curious about things we don't know about. And what your dad accomplished is, okay, this is what I found out. Don't look for them.
Bingo. Let me make this abundantly clear to folks, and like, I hope people do not take offense to this. But Dad's biggest thing is you can he wanted to he actually wrote a chapter in his book, and it's like, and then the chapter is called "I Want to Seek Out the Sasquatch Research Obsession." And here's what he says about this. I really want to read this one paragraph. Regardless of motivation, I strongly discourage people from going into the outdoors, woods, forests, wildlands, etc., and seeking out the Sasquatch, desperately trying to have another encounter or doing obsessive, unhealthy research on the subject. This is going to appear harsh. Nonetheless, I think it is necessary warning. In my opinion, nothing can be gained by treating the Sasquatch as a tribe of unknown hominins and attempting to study them. Underline bold. I repeat, nothing.
Wow.
They are not what you think they are. Though they are, you thought you found the good ones, that means humans no harm. It is, in my opinion, that most are deceiving you and at best luring you into a bad situation.
Yeah.
That's what his thing is like. So he's basically saying, don't go out and study them. Don't do this. Don't.
People do it anyways.
And people do it anyways, and all that. And it, it is what it. You're not gonna gain anything. And I've got friends that go out and study them, and God bless them. I love them, and I support them. But I'm begging you that if you haven't done this, don't get obsessed about this, because because here's the thing. Dad went out for 10 plus years, and you know how much good video he's got of Bigfoot? Maybe 5 total minutes worth of decent blurry video. Jeez. And he admits that. Yeah. Like, I've got some pictures, but that's after 10 years of this. And I'm talking hours of doing this.
Like draining your youth, man.
Yes. And then the next thing is like folks go out and they want an encounter. Like, no, why? You don't.
I don't understand why though. Why do these people want this?
They want to be the chosen ones. They want to be the special ones.
Be chosen, all right.
Yeah, that's
chosen for dinner or something.
Yeah, no kidding. I just posted today. It's like, a dad talking about why he doesn't trust the Sasquatch, and one of the biggest things, like he talked about, is like killing you is an option. Like, it may be way down on the list of things that they want to do, but it's on the list. So you have to like really understand that this about these creatures, and I think people, they want to be special. They want to find something unknown. They want to and I get it, dude. I get it. I don't trust narratives. I want to know all the things. I get it. But Dad went out there, did the research, has the scientific evidence to prove that they're a Nephilim, has proved it. It's not going to be on your, front page CNN news. And like, I promise you, this is what they are. Your best bet is read the Bible, go out and enjoy the outdoors, and kind of watch it from afar, I guess. Is that the best way I know how to put it?
Yeah.
We interviewed Ron Moorhead.
Ron's a good one.
Yeah, it's been a little while, maybe a year ago, and I asked him, did you ever find like footprints or handprints that have 6 fingers? He said yes.
Mm-hmm.
When I asked him, do you believe that these creatures are taking, like maybe like the native women? He said yes. So what we're looking at here is I believe that there's more like these Bigfoot. There's some like look more ape-like, and some look more human. And I've seen a few of these videos. I don't know if they're real or not, but it makes sense to me if they're taking people, like David Pilates says, that maybe it's just, I mean, if Bigfoot can just come through a portal and grab somebody and go right back in, you would never know. They'd be walking behind you. They're gone.
That's right.
And does this involve Dogman? It might involve Dogman too. But for me, I would never seek these things out like you were saying, because I know what they are already. And you're right, because you just confirmed to me that when you hear people say, oh, Bigfoot saved my child or Bigfoot saved my life, well, that's like public relations, man. You do something good for this race, and it's gonna be good information back for us that we're friendly. But you hear other stories, like in Alaska, these Bigfoot killed a bunch of lumberjacks, I believe it was.
Yep.
And there's other places where people just disappear, they're found torn up. So when you when you're speaking,
they try to breed with humans too.
Yeah, yeah.
They do breed. They do breed with humans. Wow. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
But yeah, go ahead.
Who's talking?
Oh.
Yeah, you're like me. You're trying to get derailed pretty easy. But yeah,
go ahead.
But yeah, they do. When you're talking to Ron Moorhead, and they do take women, and they definitely can pop through a portal and get you if they were allowed to. I believe that at some point, I don't know what they're allowed to do and what they're not. I don't know the rules of engagement, and and no one does. No one knows these rules. And the real big question is whatever is holding them back, who is it? Is it the enemy, or is it God right now? Because I'm of the belief that I'm of the belief that we are in really strange times. It says in the Indian days, like it will be like the days of Noah, and the days of Noah were wild. So what is creating them? What is propagating the continuation of their species? What is it? In my opinion, they're taking and they're staging for what's to come. Yeah. Because the enemy, he got 1/3 of the angels to come. He's still down about, he's still got a numbers game. He's got to build up his troops. And that may be what he's doing with these Bigfoot and Dogman. And he's staging them a heck of a lot closer to people, than people think to themselves. Like the Dad's research area is right across the river from rich people houses. It's not way out there. It's very, very close. So I know that's probably not what people want to hear, but that's Travis's theory about what's happening with these things. And And I'm a big fan, like I said, a big fan of L.A. Marzulli, big fan of Rob Skiba.
Rest in
They
peace.
Yes, yes. It's funny, by the way. It's funny how all these people that are bringing out the Nephilim, the different type of things to the forefront. My dad gets popped, and so does Rob. And two of the people that I greatly, obviously, I respect my dad, but respect Rob too. And it's just funny how the enemy fights. And if
Yeah.
you're getting a lot of flack, if you're getting a lot of pushback, getting a lot of spiritual warfare, you're over the target, buddy.
You can count me in that club then.
Mm-hmm. You heard that.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. But it seems like when people come into contact with these things, Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever they are, the Rake or whatever, they're basically like hijacked. He's got these spirits following them around,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear a lot of stuff happen in the home, arguments or people getting sick, apparitions, like you were speaking about earlier, and that's a red flag, because when you hear people's stories that no, this person doesn't know this person from another state, and they're basically telling the same story about these hijackers that come in their home, and they're usually dark shadow people or things they can't discern, but they
Yes.
know it's blacker than black. And go ahead.
No, 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 absolutely. Yes, yes. Blacker than black. Yes, that's such a great way to put it.
Yeah, and I recall, I believe it was your dad. He spoke about a facility called the zoo, where
Hmm.
he felt that they were creating these things too.
I I'm unaware of that conversation that he believed that, and I apologize.
It's all right.
I don't want to speak about something I don't know. I don't recall that, and
Okay,
and I apologize about
that's
that.
all right. That's all right. That's all right. Now, how did your dad ever get samples of their DNA or?
Yeah, so Dad was actually one of the ones that got many different samples of DNA. I think 31 total samples he got.
Wow.
And what I want to talk to you guys, how we talk about and how he got it, by the way, was pretty ingenious. And with these things, you actually have to be low tech. So you got to remember that we're talking about Nephilim, we're talking about extremely high technology beings. And even though they're out in the woods and they're hairy, they're high tech, they're high, they're very, very high tech. They know what's going on. So you have to kind of defeat them a little bit with low tech. Dad wrapped packing tape, sticky side out, on trees, and he would do like bacon grease or whatnot. And so they would go and they would, if you're hungry, you're out in the woods. Bacon grease, by the way, is awesome. And they went up and they licked the bacon grease, and it got their hair, and it ripped out. And it ripped out by the follicles, which is what you needed, because a Bigfoot hair or a Sasquatch hair will not yield any DNA. The follicles won't, or excuse me, the strands won't. It has to have the skin tag, has to have the follicle, and that was a way for them to get hair follicles, and it's just low tech way. Now he was seeing them on his with home visitations, and he saw a place where they were stepping over the fence. He did the same thing. He wrapped that packing tape where they were stepping over the fence, sticky side out, and also got hairs too. And those hairs, by the way, match the hairs, were the same mitochondrial DNA, human, and nuclear DNA, unknown, from his research area, from the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and from his house.
What?
So that scientifically proves that they were following him. That
Those things
scientifically
are
proves.
half human,
Yes,
dude.
they are half human. Yeah, so they are half human. They
That's
are half human.
sick.
So I apologize, Lana. But yeah, the mitochondrial DNA, which is the outside,
Yeah.
which is the mother's DNA, by the way. So if we go to Genesis 6, who was the mothers? The mothers were women, by the way.
Yeah.
So the mitochondrial DNA, which is the mother's DNA, was human. The father's DNA, which is the nuclear DNA, was unknown. Which, if we look back to Genesis 6, fallen angels, the sons of God, had intercourse with the daughters or women of men.
Oh my
So
God.
there you go.
I guess that makes sense because
Yep.
I mean every hybrid entity that's not supposed to be created all have a humanoid figure, I
Yes.
would say, and that right there is kind of proof that it's either coming from a human or an angel, right? Because only humans and angels are bipedal,
Correct. So
right? I
yeah,
mean,
this is yeah.
I
So
mean,
this is
gray
a
aliens have, 2 arms, 2 legs. Bigfoot's got 2 arms, 2 legs. Head on top, Dogman too. So
right.
I guess that makes sense, and everything's half part human or something.
Right. So you also have to understand this is a seed war. So do you remember in Genesis 3,
Yes,
the seed,
enmity,
I'm gonna,
enmity
basically
between.
God, and by the way, it's God declaring war on Satan, not the other way around. God said, I will crush my seed, the seed of the woman will crush your head, and you will bruise his heel. Like that is the declaration of war. But notice that there's two seeds talked about. It's like her seed will do this, your seed will do this. Well, everybody ignores his seed. So there is a seed war that's happening. And people, the modern Christian church wants to totally ignore this, what Nephilim are. They want to say that it's the sons of Seth and all this BS. Listen, it is fallen angels coming down, having intercourse with women, and absolutely creating abominations that have no soul, that's described in the book of Enoch. I'm not saying that the book of Enoch is canon. Let me make that very clear. But it is like a math book. It's an encyclopedia that helps us understand what happened, like a history book. Again, not canon. It's not going to get you to heaven. It's a way to look at the lens of Scripture. And when we look at that and we see this is what happened, and then we see why God flooded the earth, why Noah was perfect in his generations. Noah and his three sons were human. And everyone's like, well, how are there Nephilim after that? Well, if you have Noah and his three sons that are full human, but his wives are half humans, then kind of Nephilim, you still have that genetic boxing. And remember, um, and you have a way for Nephilim. Remember, God talks about, Ham having, what he did with Noah, whatever that was. Um, his grandson Canaan was the father of all these tribes, these Canaanite, these Nephilim tribes that Goliath was, and all this stuff, and that the Lord told the Israelites to go and absolutely crush and kill all the women, children, babies, all that. That's what's going on. He's telling them to kill the Nephilim. So it's pretty wild stuff if you don't understand that, like, and you don't look at the Bible through that lens. It seems like God's just a homicidal maniac. But when you look at it through the Nephilim lens of what actually happens, like, well, yeah, we did this whole thing with the flood, and there's still, they still have some. Yeah, we need to go kill them all. It makes sense. Does that make sense, guys?
Absolutely. I've already, like, that's pretty much my point of view from past decade.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
apologize
it's
for that
crazy.
rant,
No
by the
problem.
way. I
No,
didn't
No,
mean
man,
no, no,
you're,
no, no,
you're
absolutely
good.
not.
Well, I wanted to talk about there was something that happened. I think it was like 200 years ago, or something like that, 100 years ago. And I asked Ron Moorhead about this, about a craft that let out these big, huge things, which were
Oh
probably
yeah.
Bigfoots, right? So when you mix that up into Satan, now this is my theory on it, and I spoke to Gary Wayne about it, and I think Gary Wayne and I agree that when it says I saw Satan fall like lightning, okay, that puts a perception of Satan he's already fallen, he's like under the ground already, whatever, right? But when you start looking into Revelation and Daniel, you see that, and also Job, Satan was still there talking to God about Job, and also, where have you been? I've been walking up and down the fiery stones. Satan is still in the second heaven.
Yes.
Okay, and this is when Satan fell from like lightning from heaven. That's prophetic. That's something that's going to happen in the future event. Because you see in Daniel and Revelation that there's a war in heaven just before the abomination, and that's when Michael stands, and the dragon sweeps a third of the starry host from the sky, the angels, and he stomps on them like he's winning. but he doesn't win. And then Satan's thrown down. So there's no place in heaven for him anymore. So this is something that's going to happen in the future. Satan is still, for me, in the second heaven. And I know a lot of people get confused with that, but that's what I came up with. And I spoke to Gary Wayne about it. And he's like, that's what he thinks too, in my opinion. And then we connect these grays with Bigfoot. It seems like they're working in concert, because we interviewed a guy in Florida that said a UFO came down and a Bigfoot was attacking him. He was trying to run from it. And he says what was really weird is he said the nose was like a real perfect nose, like a Greek, like a and when I saw some photos of that, I'm like, wow, he wasn't lying. And I think it was on the show you did that you had some slides, and it looked like it man, I think it's like almost human. It's so creepy.
Let me show you this. Let
Sure.
me see if I can find that picture. But yes, one thing that I
want to see that.
would talk to people about would be that these things are not. Here's a really creepy one. Let me see if I can get that in camera. But that is just a blown up picture of that. And one of the things that people don't notice, or that really shocks them, is you have this face and you expect it to be a gorilla face. You expect that like really punched up pug nose.
Yeah.
And it looks human. It has that human nose.
That's
There's
like
a good
a perfect
example.
nose. Is that what this is going on?
Yeah, so that it has that. Here's another picture. Here's a pretty wild one. Let's see. You've got that right there. Let me see if I can get that picture for you guys. Sorry, I'm so look at that.
Oh yeah, it looks that looks like a human to me.
Yeah, so you have that. Hold on, let me see if I can find another one for you. And now some of them do kind of have that pug nose, but most of them it really
But
really
that could also be from you've said the part human, that could also be the different looks of the different races, whatever this thing was mixed with. Like, it could be a half white, half black, half, you know what I mean? And people are going to laugh and say, oh, no, I'm being dead serious. That's common sense.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's so much genetic, you're
Because
talking about
that one you just showed me,
diversity. Yeah.
the one you just showed me right now looked like he would be some kind of South American or African descent. And the one you showed me prior to that looked more European descent.
That's exactly right. There's definitely different cases of it. And I wanted to show you this. You were talking about the the 6 fingers and all that, or 6 toes. Here is a footprint that he found on his deck. Let me get that in focus for you guys.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That is 6, big dog. It's wild. And he found that was found. He was in Blue Ridge, Georgia. He was on vacation, and one had something had walked, and that was a small one, by the way, had walked across like the gravel driveway, and it was wet. They'd walked across the gravel driveway and up on that deck, and just left that powdered gravel footprint there. And they'll always do that. They'll leave like if they're trying to screw with you, they'll leave like one pristine thing, you know what I'm saying, just to say I was here, just to mess with you. Let me see if I can find another picture or two. Here's another one. Here's one that looks really Indian. Looks like Native American. You see that?
Oh,
see the high cheekbones?
Those things look creepy, man. Like,
dude, yeah.
Things look demonic, like just the way they show up in the picture.
Yeah, and that, by the way, that's one of those that Dad found, and he's blown it up to try to get you that good image. And that is about like 8-9 feet off the ground. It's not, it's not just 5-6 feet bent over. These things are 8, 9, 10 feet off the ground. Those things are huge.
Creepy. You ever seen that? You ever heard of that show called Attack on Titan?
I have not.
Man,
hold on, let's see.
I can't.
Yes, that one. You want to see? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let me show you this one. I'll show you that. This one's another one that's pretty wild.
Oh my God.
That's a sketch.
That thing is ugly.
So that thing's a sketch, but the one to the that one right here, Dad fully sketched that out, but that one to the right has not been touched. That one we were
Looks
talking
like
about.
Michael Myers, man.
Yes, that's
Ugly as heck.
exactly right. Let me show you that. Let me get that other one
Oh
for you too.
man,
That one that you just pulled up on your phone. Um, yes.
that's with an uppercut.
So,
Oh,
so this right here was this right here
oh
is a
wow,
blown up picture, and you can see that nose is just
dude, that's like
totally
a witch nose,
yes,
like a hook.
like a hook like that. So they have, and that is a trail
Wow.
camera. You know, that's infrared trail camera, and it's one of those like people are like, oh, I don't see anything. I was like, okay,
Oh, okay,
don't you
yeah.
love those? But
That's pretty
here,
wild. That's
look,
ugly, man. Look, that looked like the Green Goblin dude from
yes,
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
yes. And by the way, that's a picture on the right of the thing, but a picture of where Dad is standing. That's how tall they are. So that's Dad standing, and then it's hard to see in that picture, and I apologize, but basically they're standing. You know, Dad was 6'2", and they're 7 foot, probably creeping down like that. It's wild. So I've got so many pictures here in
What
Dad's
book is
book.
that? What book are you pulling this
Now
from?
this one is a great one. It's a little bit more expensive. It's called the Nephilim Among Us Special Edition.
I gotta
You
get
can
that
get
book.
this you can get this on Amazon, and you can see the genetic diversity in all these. There's a white one. There's definitely, you can tell different ones. There's a picture of the Dogman. And these are pictures that Dad has, and he's kind of taken and flipped the face and given it full face. Because what they'll usually do, you'll mostly see like half face stuff, and he just takes it
Okay,
and flips it.
I
But
just got
there's
it right now. It's like $35. I'm gonna get that thing.
yeah, so it's got it is absolutely one of
Looks
the
pretty
greatest
stacked. Yeah,
research.
looks pretty
It's
good. That's a
that
nice book.
it's let's see, let's see how many pages it is. For that much, you have 300 pages of massive, colorful pictures, all that stuff.
All
So
right,
because
cool.
you know how YouTube is, the stuff will last up there and be good until it ain't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Yeah. Here's a. Let me
Where's
see.
that?
dude, yeah, that's one too. So so that was in the same place that other one was taken, and
There's
that's
two of
two
them.
of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there's
two
two
of
of
them
them.
looking. And what they're doing is they're peeking. They're literally just peeking out at a trail camera, so they can see. The thing is, these
Like,
things can
why that
see
behavior
infrareds.
then? My thing is, why that behavior? Like, why this? Like, how could they be so intelligent and high tech, but at the same time be playing little games? You know what I mean? The behavior makes no sense to me. It's like if they wanted to, they could just get the camera, break it, and just get on with the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I don't understand the games that they
Yeah,
play.
I don't
There's
understand it.
something there. It is so frustrating. It is so
Yeah, it's like a
because
trickster.
they won't talk to you. They won't tell you the rules.
Yeah,
Whatever rules they are there, but at the same time they do. They're also tricksters and mischievous and all that. When people
and
do the mind speak, one of the biggest things is, Dad told them, or when they're asked about, do you like, who are you? They would be like, oh, we're your spirit brothers. We're from the sky. We're all this. And when they were asked about Jesus, oh, they don't know who Jesus is. They know who God is. They know who God is, but they don't know this Jesus fella. They don't know who Yeshua is. So them denying Jesus is always something that really just put up a red flag for Dad and for me. And the fact, again, they'll tell you one thing here, one thing there, of their origin, but they will all deny Christ.
wow, definitely interesting.
Well, this is another one I want to show you. If you can kind of talk about this.
What is it? What?
Yeah, so that is the white. That's the white. That's the peking white Bigfoot.
That looks like a Yeti.
Dude,
I
yes.
I don't know why
So-
that word come to my head. Yeti.
No, absolutely. Like it, because again, that was the white one that was captured. That was captured up on the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, up on a trail called Turkey Pin Trail, up on. And what Dad is doing, Dad is actually walking with a back trail camera. Is how he got most of these shots. they're not going to actually show you like their face. They're not going to step out in front of you. But what they are going to do is they are going to kind of do this whole peeking thing. So what Dad did is Dad had the idea, and again, we were really, we weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, we were pretty daggone poor. But Dad had this like Sony Handycam, and he basically would strap it to his backpack pointing backwards. And with that, what would happen is they would kind of do this whole half-face peek out thing. And there's a video of it, and basically this thing raises up, peeks at him, and then raises back down. It is just absolutely wild, and that's probably his best catch ever, is that white one peeking up and peeking back, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's all you see is literally about that and that. And I mean, you don't even see the full face, you just see this. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're faking it," or whatnot. I was like, well, we really went through so much effort to fake, just a small little peek on a 480, Sony Handycam. I really feel like we would do a heck of a lot better if we were faking it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that's one of his best catches, and that one's weird too. But the question is like you said, is they can they can pop in and out of portals, they can do all this, like they can, if they wanted to, they could snap your head off
That's
like
what I'm
that.
saying. Why
But why not?
going around, all the BSing and all the
Yes.
games and the tactics, and it doesn't make any sense other than just to be curious about you. That's the only thing. It's like, why are you doing this? That's the only thing I can possibly raise is why.
Well, what were the fallen angels called?
What do you
Sons
mean?
of God.
Devils?
Sons of God, but what were they also called?
Stars, demons.
The Watchers.
Yeah.
Watcher. Oh, there you go.
So what do they do? They watch.
Yeah.
That's my only conclusion. That's the only thing I've got for you. Other than that, I don't have a good answer.
Yeah.
But I know that these guys, there's something about like there has to be like a barrier, because again, when they are, there's so many stories of when they're rebuked, they obey. Same thing with UFOs, same thing with alien encounters and abductions. Like when they're rebuked in the name of Jesus, boom, it stops immediately.
Yeah.
So, and there are so many UFO and Bigfoot connections. Like a lot of people will say, like they saw Bigfoot and then they saw a UFO. Like there's so many things connected with that. So it's wild to me. I don't know if it's a genetic thing, like I said with Dad and whatnot, but thank Jesus I have never had an encounter. I've had feelings. I've had very strong, scary feelings, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really nice. I told him to get the heck out of there, and probably said a few words I shouldn't have said. But I told him, I was like, get away from me. I do not want you around me. Don't you ever come near me. Just and I have really had no issues since.
Yeah. Wow.
And what about like what's your opinion on like these people that just keep looking for it? Like, for example, these Christian podcasters, right? We already know that these things are real, right? We already know that we found evidence of these things, right? This is just a fact, right? Why are people like, what is, you know what I mean? Like the mystery's not even there anymore. As far as us knowing if they're real or not, that's already been, a long time ago already. So why do these people under a spell? Because it's like, you're not like, it's not like you're the first one to find it. Everybody already found these things already. And they just keep looking for it and looking for it. Like the evidence is not good enough. Like, what do you want? You want to live with these things? You want to build a house with them? Like, it's not enough.
I'm not 1,000% sure. I think sometimes for a lot of people, they have to experience it for themselves. And while I may not agree with that, I think that's their reason. I hope that's the reason. Is they're just like, man, I believe this, but I just got to have it for myself. And I just caution you so much against that. Please, just because here's the thing. I mean, my wife was so smart, and I've told her this on several podcasts. It's like from the very beginning, my wife said, Travis, I don't know if this thing's meant to be found. I just got a bad feeling, and I believe God gave women some discernment there. It's a little bit of gut feeling, you know. And not saying always right about everything. My wife's definitely not, and I'm not right about everything either. Let me tell you that much. But you know, the discernment to be like, I don't know about these things. I don't, and she just had like this spiritual, and ever since I mean, she and I have really, and I did, and I even went to the four corners of my house and I pray. I was like, if there's anything that's following me, if there's any, you know, thing that doesn't need to be here, it ain't like, Lord, it needs to go away. And I pray, and we, you know, people may make fun of us. We've done the oil. You know, we've anointed our house with oil and all that stuff. And we believe in the blood of Jesus and we pray it over it. And people may make fun of us, but that's what we do. And I've actually been asked, um, to be on shows before. And oh, would you help us go look for Bigfoot? Would you be okay with looking? I said, here's the thing, brother. I will teach you all about them, but I ain't looking for it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that doesn't help your show. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I'll show you where it was. And then I'm like, peace out. Y'all be good. Y'all do your thing. And you know, ever I'm not gonna ever say anything bad about anybody about that, but I will say that just please, please, please be careful because you don't know what you're bringing upon yourself or your family.
I have to agree with that. I want to show you a few more. Let me see, get this number out of here. This is creepy, man. Why would anyone want? This thing doesn't look like it's here to help you or any sort of being angelic.
Dude, man, that one's the wild one. And it has those big sunken in chest cheeks and all that. The biggest one that I found too, and I sent you a few things, and I
Yeah,
apologize. I'm not the most tech savvy thing in the world. So
neither am I. But
hey,
here's
it's
what
all
I want to
good.
show you too. You can see the distortion in the trees, and you can see something coming through this what appears to be a portal.
Yes, it's the portal one.
See
So
that thing?
so
It kind of looks white right there in the
yeah,
middle.
oh yeah, that is one of the best pictures or videos you'll ever
I've
see,
seen
in
the
my
video
opinion,
before.
of a portal. So, L.A. Marzulli talked. Dad went on and talked with L.A. Marzulli about it. Dave Pilates actually purchased the footage from Dad, and hopefully we'll be coming out with a video and a documentary about it on about portals and stuff. But that is by far the best one I've ever seen, and that thing with the video that's going to come out, that's literally walking down the trail, and that daggum thing materializes.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the farther away Dad gets from it, the clearer that entity gets, and it is absolutely wild. I've shown my friends the video, and I've showed real big people in the Bigfoot community, and they've seen it. And it's like, holy crud. Um, it is, and it's like Dad just walked right through that portal. So the question is like, okay, how, what is the dominion of these portals? How do they work? All that. We have no idea. We can only go by anecdotal evidence, but they do. I mean, they do exist. There's video evidence of them. And again, people that say, "Oh, you're faking it. There's nothing there." Here's the thing: if we were faking it, I sure as heck would tell you we would make it a heck of a lot better than what you see. But that's about as good as it gets right there. That portal.
Yeah, I have to agree. And here's one that's really it's really disturbing, and this is definitely half human.
Yeah, that's that Indian one that we've talked about. Yeah, it really
Look at
does.
that.
That looks just so. Look at that cheek. That cheek looks like my cheek.
Looks
You
like
know what
it's
I'm saying?
smiling. Is it smiling?
I don't know.
Look like a
Like
smile to me, or a
it's like this
laughter.
thing.
Like
It's wild.
that.
And that is up there. And it's, again, this is all caught on back trail camera, so Dad's kind of just walking by.
And
And
the thing
it's
is, these pictures, they look like, when people catch like demonic entities on film, they don't look like, they look like they're not fully solid. Like the way these pictures,
yes.
they look like they're just like distorted, not because of the film, because it just is how it looks. They don't look normal, bro. They don't look like, if you took a picture of me like that, I wouldn't look all whatever like that. You know what I mean? There's something going on. There's like it's almost like you can see the spirit kind of coming out of it. I don't know. It's weird.
When Dad had, speaking of the spirit coming out, like that just reminds me of this. So Dad had a face-to-face encounter with a dog man, when he was doing his research for and trying to get putting up the packing tape and putting up the he called them hair
Oh,
traps.
what a bonus for him, right?
Oh, he
Jeez.
hated it. It
Yeah.
was terrible. So he had this face-to-face encounter with a dog man, and it freaked him out. This thing literally jumps up on a tree. And dad's by the way, dad's Air Force guy, played football. Like dad's not really scared of much. And are you guys pew pew people at all? Do you know?
Oh, dude, I love guns. I box. I like to do MMA. I'm
Nice,
in it, bro.
nice.
Wow, let's go.
So you're gonna laugh about this. So dad was really poor, at the time. So dad's carry pistol, and I laughed at him all the time. I said, Dad, this is terrible. Was a high point 40. And it was like, oh my gosh, Dad. And Dad not only carried that, but he wouldn't carry one in the chamber because he was afraid he'd shoot his foot off. He was old school. It killed me. So how that relates to the story is, so Dad's got this thing, this dog man that's jumped up on his tree. And he's like, oh my, like Dad starts freaking out, like goes through that fight or flight of, okay, I need to start backing away, keep my eyes on this. I need to pull out my pistol. So Dad pulls out his pistol, and he doesn't have a round in the chamber. So what he does, not thinking, he basically pulls it back and without thinking just lets it go. And of course, you know how a high point is. It sounds like a daggum brick clang, And of course, as soon as that slide drops on that high point, that thing that's on this tree goes and does this and just stares at him. And Dad said those were the coldest, blackest eyes he's ever seen. He says, when you look at like a dead deer, like that's mounted, and you just look at it and there's nothing there. He said there was nothing there.
That's crazy.
And he said he backed out. He backed out for what seemed probably a minute or two, but what he said seemed like 15, 20 minutes. Backed out and booked it out of there. Called Dave Pilates, said if I die, you call somebody, blah blah blah. Called his wife to come get him. She came around, and I actually talked to her about this experience, and ex-wife now, at the time. But anyway, I talked to her about this experience, and she would have, again, no reason to lie or embellish anything. And she says, yeah, he was so scared that he was shaking, and I had to tell him, it's like, hey, you want to put that pistol down now? You're kind of scaring me. So that's what happened with the dog man. Dad hated every minute of it, and it scared the absolute living crap out of him. So that's what people want to look for.
No, absolutely not. It's a pretty crazy story because usually dogmen have glowing eyes.
That one didn't. It was black eyes.
Man, well, that's so. He was out there looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Oh man,
these things weren't supposed to exist. Yeah.
Wow.
And this was before. You got to remember, this was before it was accepted that Dogman and Bigfoot were two cryptids that not necessarily didn't had separate territories, but Dogmen weren't supposed to exist. It wasn't okay to even talk about Dogman. It was was like, oh, we can talk about Bigfoot, but Dogman, that's
way
crazy.
out.
Yeah, that's way out there. And he he didn't care one bit about this Dogman, but he had a face-to-face encounter one, and it, like I said, it wigged him out. He also sold the High Point and got a Glock.
Nice.
There you go. Did your dad ever speak with Martin Groves?
I think he did. I don't know, but I know Martin Groves had a really wild and by the way, pray for Martin. I know he's going through some health things. We all need to keep him
Yeah.
in our prayers. But I know he had some issues with Dogman. Had a really weird experience, a police officer experience, I think, with one. Is that
No,
right?
Yeah, something like that. He saw a lot of things. Like a camp that looked like it was just people just took off, left everything there. I don't know if there are any bodies found, or I don't remember, but I remember him saying something about Bigfoot crawling like a spider.
oh yeah,
I
that
heard
was
that. Yes,
scary. I remember hearing
the
that.
spider. Dad talked about that. How they can do these creepy things. So, Martin talking about the spider one, and I have seen that video and that spider picture. It is
That is
creepy.
an ugly thing, man.
Dude, but Dad talked about that they would crawl, they would spider crawl, they would do all this, they would do weird stuff like that just to try to like get away so you wouldn't see them. He said when they run so fast, it's weird. He said it almost looks cartoonish
Like
how fast they run. It's almost like it's wild. He said you wouldn't believe it.
it's
So
just
it's just he said it's just so weird and creepy. But if you're talking about an entity that is, spiritual in nature and can do weird things, that, movie, like I said, I hate to keep going back to movies, but I think they tell us things in movies. It's like, how these things can always contort their bodies and all that stuff. Who knows?
and also like kind of like you could also vibrate, like you say, when they're running, they're probably might not even be running. They could be vibrating and using that to propel
Like,
themselves. Like
could be
like
like a
the
bee
Flash.
does.
Have you seen the movie The Flash? He kind of just vibrates and goes through walls, vibrates, teleports out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Check
Absolutely.
that
Could
movie out.
and I believe in that vibration stuff, man.
Yeah.
I know that's weird. That's so a different thing to people, but here's the deal: is the United States government, they already know about sound and all that, and they have sound that they can literally play to make everyone puke, to everyone crap them, hate to, loosen their bowels, all that stuff. And that's the government, what the government can do, and that's what your local sheriff's office has at their disposal, by the way, is this sound stuff. So I absolutely believe in the sound and the vibration. They definitely could be, they could be, like you said, vibrating, not really running, just vibrating.
So it seems like going back to the fallen angels that fell with rebelled against God. Um, it seems like these when you look at what was I going to say? Well, anyways, the way I see this is when the Bible says that men's hearts will fail for what's coming out on the earth. Now, in my opinion, I think these Bigfoot and Dogman and these other creatures, I think they are. Well, I don't think, I know they're hybrids, and they're also part of Satan's army. And I think what's ever holding them back from just being fully seen, the restrainer, it could be the Holy Spirit that's restraining them, or it could be Michael. It's one of the two for me. And I think once that restraint is lifted, I think people are going to see these Bigfoot, these satyrs, these different creatures that people see. And for even me, it's kind of like, come on, man, you saw a satyr? But it says in the Bible, the satyrs, when
Hmm.
Babylon's destroyed. And it's not so outlandish when you correlate that with the Bible. And some people have theories that Esau was a hairy red guy, whatever creature, I don't know. He was full of hair. And then what's interesting about that is his lineage goes and marries into the Horites, the cave dwellers, the Nephilim, the hybrids.
Right.
So is it possible that Bigfoot is part of that lineage? I don't know, but it sounds good. But I can't say, as a matter of fact, that's true. But it's not. I don't know. It's conjecture. It's an idea, and So when you get all this stuff together, the UFOs, the different types of aliens, and Bigfoot and Dogman, all stuff. For me, once again, that's Satan's army. That's going to be unveiled as we get closer to the end of the age. And I think people out there that are actively looking for these things, keep in mind when you do this, you're opening up yourself to these hitchhikers, these demons, and they will come to your house, and you will see shadow people, and you might start feeling ill, and all kinds of other things might happen to you. Because that happened to me when we interviewed a guy who got abducted. The next day I got a fever, then I got super cold, then I got hives. So this stuff is real, man. So I always pray before I do a show that has to do with something like this, because we don't want those things. These things also work through technology. They can mess up your podcast. Your system's not working right. There's so many things that they can do. And I just want to warn people, man. I mean, for me, I know Bigfoot's real. I know Dogman and all those other creatures are real. And I don't go actively searching for them, nor will I ever venerate them by way of a cute T-shirt with Bigfoot with sunglasses on, or a little cute alien smiling. I don't do that, because what would Jesus say if he saw you walking down the street wearing this stuff? That's idolatry. And by us saying this here, and all the listeners, they're going to watch this or are watching this, you're on your own now, because that seed's been planted. You shouldn't worship these things. And venerating them is anything that has to do with sculptures, little dolls, cups, T-shirts, sweaters, hats. That's all idolatry. And I don't think Jesus will want you to do that. What do you say?
I think that's pretty well said. I think that it's hard for me not to agree with you there. So,
well, those podcasters that are out, and the funny thing is, just like in Hollywood, the people who do the most wicked things or promote the most wicked things and make the most money. Now ask yourself, what Christian podcasters are making the most money? Is it the ones that talk? Is it the ones that have God and Jesus as their symbol, as their logo? Or is it the ones that have Bigfoot, Dogman, and aliens as their logo? The ones that call themselves, conspiracy this, blurry creatures. I don't even care. Blurry creatures is one of them. Like, these people are like obsessed with all this stuff. And then, some person will come out and say, well, they're Christian, that, right? I heard them recite prayer. So does the devil recite prayer. What does that got to do with anything? You're going to tell me that I'm out of pocket for calling this out? I mean, okay. So, I guess if I just go walking down the street with 666 outfit on, it's not a big deal, because, it's just an outfit. But, anyways, I digress.
No, you make amazing points. You're not out of pocket. You're not
absolutely saying, and a lot of people,
out of pocket.
And people will tell me I'm jealous on this and that. Trust me, dude. There's nothing to be jealous about at all.
No.
And just moving forward, and then the people that mentor me are way bigger and way more smarter and closer to God than any of these guys could ever be. So that whole thing saying that I'm jealous, whatever, is nonsense, because the people that I get my, learn from,
of course,
on another level, has been doing this for a long time.
I totally understand that.
So those people could just take a hike. What are you gonna do? Just you're not gonna do nothing, so you can just stop listening, or you can keep listening and learning. But right now we're at the last 10 minutes of the show. You got any last things you want to talk about, Dominic, and get our guests to give us some info? Any last words or anything?
Well, when we speak about other podcasters, and there's a few of them out there I listen to once in a while, because I want to see what's going on in these Christian circles. And when you have people on that's supposed to be a Christian podcast, and they're talking about maybe they had a pastor on, and he's talking about past lives, and he's talking about when the soul, when your heart's broken, your soul, right, that is broken to pieces that floats around in the air. When he's talking about just different things that are more involved with Gnosticism than anything else.
Yeah,
that's a red flag. Yeah, that's a red flag.
that, I think John Pounders did a great job of having that guy on that talked about, and had that debate of, if are the Nephilim the sons of God, and that guy, really went on and talked about the Gnostic Gospels and all that, and really laid out like what they believe, and it is complete and utter Satanism. They basically blaspheme our God Yahweh. That's what they do, and like you said, is they talk about, you know, my advice for people is to read the word, know what it says, and do not just take what Travis Carpenter or anybody says for scripture. Go and read it for yourself. The Lord made it for the common man. I'm a big fan of Chuck Missler. God rest his soul.
Oh yeah, I have all his tapes.
Dude,
Cassette tapes.
so yeah, hey, my man,
Yeah.
yes. So Chuck, do it what Chuck says. It's like, here's the word, read it. Don't believe anything Chuck Missler says. Don't believe anything Travis Carpenter says. Go read it. Go read it for yourself. That way you won't be deceived when these folks come out and say this or that or whatnot, or these so-called Christian X or Y, the pastors or podcasters or whatnot. You won't be deceived by them because you will have read it for yourself and you're like, hey, I know what the word says. I just read it today. That doesn't say that. It doesn't talk about that. It's appointed once for man to die and then the judgment. Like, we know this because we've read it. Things like that. And then that word gets written in your heart and you can start reciting it. It's like, wait, hold on. Here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense, 100%.
So that's my thing on that, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't got a lot of time to listen to a ton of other podcasters, just because heck, I'm doing work and I've got the nose to the grindstone as well. I'm blessed to have the work to do. Let me tell you that. And then I do this and spend time with the kids.
It's hard.
So,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you what, if anybody's telling people that they need to go out and start seeking these things, they're definitely giving people the wrong information. I definitely, I think with everything that we've laid out, everything that Dad had laid out, we really need to. Don't trust these things. These things are you know these things are evil. Again, there might be a good one or two, but you don't know that. You don't if anything, the Lord tells you to stay away from them. So that's what I recommend doing. And like you said, if you've got you won't see like a ton of Bigfoot stuff here. Like the only thing it's not. I will say, here's what's going on. Here's this, here's that. I'll talk about the DNA study, and then we'll get into the Nephilim among us and what's happening. And it's just to bring awareness of what's happening. And that if you saw something, you're not crazy. I'm sorry that the church has failed you and has not told you these things exist. I'm sorry but we're here to help and to tell you and to guide you and teach you. But again, you have to read the word for yourself. Don't rely on your pastor. Feed yourself. That's just my diatribe, my opinion on that.
No, thank you, man. That was a great closing statement, and just want to say thank you for coming on the show and sharing all this information. I hopefully it gets around and people, get some common sense and don't go looking for demonic entities that walk like spiders. And I mean, isn't that enough?
Yeah.
Isn't that enough right there, man? To be like, nah, I don't want to go. I don't want to.
Oh, it's the keeper of the forest.
Yeah,
come on now.
It's going to keep you in the forest if you go looking out for him. So don't be doing that. Again, thank you for coming on the show. It was a pleasure.
The honor was all mine, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me, honestly, thank you for opening the door and letting me just get right into the hardcore stuff. Not a lot of people will let me do that, and I'm so grateful for you guys.
There's no other way to do it. Any other way is just weak. You know what I mean? So
I heard that.
I don't know. There's no other way around it. But again, thank you again. I am your host, Lionel Tavares from the Sabbath at Midnight here with Dominic and our guest. Thank you again very much. God bless you. Hang on the line. We're gonna get out right here, right now. Alrighty. The episode has now come to an ending. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys took what this man said very serious. His dad spent almost his whole life doing this. And all due respect to him, but imagine you're going to spend your whole life looking for this thing. You're going to spend 10, 20, 30 years for 2 minutes of footage, for 3 minutes of footage. I mean, can you say that this thing drains your youth, drains your life by playing tricks on you and making you think that you're one step closer? These things are real, man. The reason why you can't get too close to them because they're spiritual. So stay away from these things, man. Be smart. Have your head obsessed with Jesus, not with the Bigfoot or Dogman. God bless, and I'll see you guys soon. In this world full of schemes and agendas, would you give your life for the king? Give it up. Martyrdom, yeah, that really is a thing. Better look it up if you don't believe, you know what I mean? We gotta try our hardest not to be so naive and be mindful of the children and people that bleed for the name of Christ. The only one that can save your life. He saved mine never once, gotta thank him twice. The amount of 1,000 thanks in a day, knowing I gotta give him more praise when I pray. Finally I feel alive and I know why, cause I'm giving all the glory to the Most High. They don't wanna hear the truth, that is no lie. If we ain't in the last days, then we're close by. The devil's trying to snatch your soul and it's not a game. You hear me saying Jesus Christ and it's not in vain. They might get offended every time I drop his name, but I'ma let them know that I'm not ashamed. Can't be content with just church on Sunday or just going through the motions, cause one day I'ma have to give account for my time spent and where my empty words and all of that pride went. Calamity bringing clarity. Seems like a good church these days is a rarity. When out of 7 in the book of Revelation, a perverse generation on the verge of devastation. A sign of the times, realizing that I'm in danger if I don't put my mind to the grind and do a work for the Lord. Every verse is a sword. Overseas there is people getting murked for the Lord. Imagining the whole church in the court, death itself shortly after rebirth in the Lord. Rapping for Christ like I wanna be his hype man, and I know opportunities have a lifespan. Finally I feel alive and I know why, cause I'm giving all the glory to the Most High. They don't wanna hear the truth, that is no lie. If we ain't in the last days, then we're close by. The devil's trying to snatch your soul and it's not a game. You hear me saying Jesus Christ and it's not in vain. They might get offended every time I drop his name, but I'ma let them know that I'm not ashamed.
The idea is trusting in God even when it doesn't make sense. 2 Timothy 1 verse 12. This is why I am suffering as I am, yet I am not ashamed, because I know whom I have believed. I am convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted in him for that day. I am not ashamed, he says. I'm not ashamed